If you're like me, you fell in love with lifting weights because seeing the number on the bar go up every week felt fucking awesome, and that was all you needed to be hooked for life. But you've been consistently lifting for a while now, you train hard, and yet the weights you're adding to the bar for your squats is the same you've been lifting for months, if not years. It's frustrating, and you feel like no matter what you do, you're never destined to increase the weight. You know you shouldn't compare yourself to others, but you're embarrassed by the weight you struggle with, and the attempt to push the load leads to a horrible, grindy rep that felt fucking awful. So today I'm going to help you. Are you actually stuck, or are you measuring progress wrong? Now, before I get stuck in, let me introduce myself so you know I'm not just an influencer talking out of my arse. My name is Sam, and I've been lifting weights for over 10 years now. I was a gymnast for nearly 20 years, and over the last decade I've managed to tick off an ultramarathon, a few high rocks races, a half marathon, 10k, triathlons, and now I'm forever hooked on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so not only will I help you assess if and why your strength progress has stalled, but if you're also someone who uses their strength training to do cool shit, this is the right place to be. Progressive overload is the practice of gradually increasing the intensity, volume, or frequency of training sessions over time to continually stress muscles, stimulate growth, strength, and endurance. So in other words, it's giving your body a reason to adapt and get stronger. When you first started lifting, you probably got told that the aim with strength training is to just try and lift more than you did the week before. And whilst that works when you're a beginner, as you get stronger, adding more weight is easier said than done. Because let's face it, if the goal was just to lift more every week, we'd all have superhuman strength and we'd be out there lifting elephants and shit. So let's look at a bunch of ways to progress your strength training outside of just lifting more. I want to kick off with the more obvious ones and how you can apply this to your own training. First up, the favourite is just to lift more weight. If your set is no longer challenging you, add more load. But be realistic about it. When you've been lifting for a while, adding 0.5 to 2.5 kilos across a training block is where you should be setting your expectations. All too often, I see people expecting to add on 5 to 10 kilo in their lifts, when in reality, those little plates you keep ignoring are your best friends. Next, we can lift the same weight for more reps. If you're working within a rep range of 6 to 8 with your squats, and on week 2 you hit 6 reps for 3 sets, now you're going to try and aim for the 7th. Repeat that cycle until you hit all 3 sets for 8 reps, and then you can look to increase the load again. Then we've got more sets, adding in an extra set. You can't always add more weight or even hit more reps when you're working close to your capacity. So adding in an extra set will just allow you to increase the total volume lifted across a session. Now those are the easier, more straightforward ways to progress your strength work. They're easy to apply and easy to measure, and whilst they're also the easier ones to celebrate, anyone who has been lifting for a while or is actually working at their true capacity will end up celebrating the next few a hell of a lot more. Because yeah, when you can't add more weight, more reps, or more sets, then what next? You can lift the same weight, but better. Now, of all the things you take away today, this principle is massively overlooked by most, but it's also the one I'd say that's up there in terms of the most important. Let's say you're hitting a 60 kilo squat for 5 reps, but it was pretty tough. You were really giving it some beans, and the idea of asking yourself to lift more, or even for another rep, is just a bit silly. Then you're simply going to keep going until that 60 kilo for 5 reps feels better. But that doesn't happen by accident. You have to be very intentional about your reps in order for a heavy weight to start feeling easier. The best way to think about it is that you're trying to move the same weight but faster. I'll stick with the squat as an example for now. The goal with your squat will be to try and increase the speed of the concentric part of the lift, which is the bit on the way up. So once you hit the bottom of the squat, you're going to try your best to come up as fast as possible. Now, if the weight is challenging enough, it's not necessarily going to pop back up, and it shouldn't. But the intention of trying to move the same weight faster is another way to force more demand on the body. And by doing so, over time, that 60 kilo that first felt slow and grindy is now moving a lot quicker. And congratulations, you got stronger. Next up, you can add in a pause. Now imagine I tell you to hold that 60 kilo for 5 reps for 1 or 2 seconds at the bottom before you come back up. To put it simply, your body will need to be stronger in order to do this. And if you've ever done pause squats before, you will know they are not easy. If we were to add in a pause to this specific scenario and you were actually training hard enough in the first place, you probably won't be able to hit the same number of reps for the same weight with a 1 to 2 second pause. The pause takes away the momentum of the squat and makes it a lot harder. So same weight, harder lift, more demand. It's worth me noting you can absolutely do this with most exercises. These are particularly handy for upper body movements, so pausing at the bottom of a chest press, for example, especially because the jumps in weight are much bigger. So for example, going from a 15 kilo to 17.5 is quite a big jump. You can do this with partial reps, like a quarter or half rep. So in a squat, you would come all the way down to full range of motion, come up a little bit, back down, and then back up, and that's 1 rep. Really fucking tough, I won't lie, but great for getting stronger. I'll also say I really like both pause and partial reps for getting people more confident and efficient in their technique, but that's for another video. You can also increase the range of motion of an exercise. You can just feel more recovered after a set. You can change the variation of a lift. The list goes on, but I'm hoping that you're already starting to understand there are plenty of ways you've probably already progressed in your training that you might not have acknowledged before. And they're all wins, even if they're not as sexy as a big PB. So I'm going to give you a bit of homework and I want you to report back. The next time you approach your session, you're going to look back at what you did the week before, look at your reps, look at the load and think about how that lift felt. And then I want you to think about how you can one-up yourself. Now you've watched this video. I will, of course, mention that progress isn't linear. You might hear this a lot and let it go over your head, but don't. You're not expected to progress every single week. What goes on in life will have an impact on your training, and we always have to bear that in mind. We're looking for an overall trend going up over time with a few very expected dips along the way. And if you've watched all of this and think, fuck, well, I get it, but I still don't really know how to pull this all together in a program, this is exactly why I created the Strong as Fuck Club. It's for women who care about getting stronger in the gym and are spinning their wheels a bit. Maybe you feel like you're working hard and yet the results aren't showing for you. If that sounds a bit like you and you want to know more, I've dropped the links in the video so you can check that out. But it's not just a program. This is as close to one-to-one coaching as you can get without the cost of one-to-one coaching. So you've got direct access to me to ask questions, get support on your training, know when to push, when to pull back. And you can also get more confident in how you lift by sending in videos for me to assess and give feedback on your form. So on that note, thank you for listening. I hope this cleared a few things up and has left you feeling a bit more excited about your training. If you've enjoyed it or you've got questions, please, I'd love to hear from you. Drop it in the comments below. My next video, I'm going to be covering how to know if you're lifting heavy enough. So keep an eye out for that.